My name? That's not my name. My name is Marie Claire O'Sullivan.
Actually, it's Dr. Marie Claire O'Sullivan.
Okay, it's Dr. Marie Claire O'Sullivan.
Don't touch that. A more interesting question might be, why did you want to do your PhD on the English in Australia?
Oh, that's an easy one to remember. I didn't like the idea of doing something. I wanted an inside look, not an outside look, and so much of it was, you know, the stuff that I'd read before I started. The ones that I read before often just went on and on as if, you know, they didn't exist, and so it wasn't really. Yes, it doesn't give you a better idea of a what's the word?
An ethnicity?
An
ethnicity?
Oh, okay, an ethnicity. Yes, doesn't really give you a good idea if you just decide. Oh, you just ask them questions and they'll come up with something. You know, that it seemed to me that wasn't a good way to go, and I mean the idea of the whole thing was to see people as they were, and I decided that was a good way to do it if I you know, sort of got stories from
English people.
English people who were living in Australia, and sort of get a picture of what they found, you know, how their life was, and so on. And I thought that was terribly important, you know. So that's why I chose the English in Australia, because I was one, you know, and I could relate to that in that, you know, without any problems. I mean, basically the whole of my what's the word?
Research or?
Yeah, research was based on talking to people, asking them, and I framed some questions as I went along, you know, and I did.
So it was a kind of ethnography.
Oh, definitely an ethnography, yeah, but a very broad one, because yeah. So I was going to different people, like when I went to
the English in Australia in Adelaide?
Adelaide. When I went to Adelaide, you know, and also, see, that was another thing, finding people who were interested. I sent to different places and things and asked them, you know, would you be... and that was a good one. The one, I mean, I don't know whether it was a good one from the point of view of the answers, but they were eager the very, 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 very
Conservative?
yes, very, and not, they weren't the only ones though, but that was a thing that, you know, that they knew everything about themselves, also about Australians, and so that it was that kind of approach, you know, and so that was quite good. So you know, so I had a went around to different people's places when they asked, you know, when they offered for me to go and visit them. So I did that, and then that was part of it too. But the they weren't all in that group. The group was rather the not, group isn't the right word, is it? It's you know, they have meetings and things, you know.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, an association of some kind.
Yeah, and and you know, and going into somebody's home seemed to be a sensible thing to do, so I did that too, and also oh, people would oh, I had things at the university that I could I had a room, and I could have do asking questions to a group of people at a time. Did that too, and yeah, I found out a lot of things that I didn't know, but I also got a lot of stuff that I did know, and also that they were, you know, some people were quite quite what's the word? You know, I did have some people come back and say, you know, well, that's not right, you know, when so and so, and you know, and they would talk to each other, but in you know, when I had a group, but the ones that I went to to their home, you know, that was probably more helpful, because they showed me a part of England that I hadn't thought about it, or something like that, or you know, the war came into it a lot because of the age group, you know, and a lot of people were still interested in talking about that, and
we're still alive.
And still alive. That's right. Yeah, yeah. There was one man that wanted to come and talk to me, and it was just about the time I was going, so I didn't take him up on it, but he'd already talked to me for 2 hours, and I thought, well, that'll do, you know. And he was the one who told me about the things that I didn't know about the war, because I was only a kid, and so was he. He was about 8, I think, something like that. 8 when bombs dropped. I don't know whether it was on or near his house, and you know, and it affected him badly, you know, and for a long time he wouldn't talk, he didn't speak to people, and you know, that kind of thing. And so that was interesting. I mean, I found that rather more interesting than you know, whether they enjoyed being in Australia or not, you know. And I thought that was interesting, and yeah. But you know, I'd go to different places, and there'd be different levels of education, different levels of interest, you know, and some of it was good, and a fair bit of it was good.
Yeah.
That you know, in
Adelaide.
Adelaide, in Adelaide, yeah. Things I remember, you know, more vividly are the times when I visited a small amount of people in a house or whatever, or you know, maybe just a couple, and that they were good. They were good because they told about, you know, the war. Everybody talked about the war. Except for the people who had been in Australia for.
Or who were too young.
Yeah, well, I'm saying they were too old, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, they were.
Sorry, or the people who were too young to have been
That's
through
right.
the war.
That's right. Yeah.
What did those
Yeah.
ones talk about? The younger ones.
I don't think I got too many younger ones that wouldn't have known about it. I mean, it was
20 years ago that you were doing the research, yeah.
20 years
Yeah, a
ago.
bit more actually, yeah.
Yeah, so, you know, yes, I'm doing this as if I'm looking at somebody. I'm trying to think of people. Not too sure. You know, there were people who wanted to argue with me about something, and you know, they were typically I know everything type people, and they just sort of, and I'd listen to them, but I don't know that, you know, what they were saying was particularly.
Was there a political bent to their arguments?
Oh, very political, yeah. Those kinds of people. You know, lots of people, like for instance in Brisbane, I had, I was in Brisbane, yeah, I was in Brisbane. I had, you know, sort of, I went to the
English in Australia, I think it is.
English in Australia. Is that what it's called?
TEA.
Is it?
Oh, no, it's the St George Society.
No.
Society of St George.
No.
Oh.
Although he was terribly important.
But you did have the Society of St George people, didn't you?
Did I?
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go. They were the ones that were at the place where you eat. Um, oh.
I'm no help. The house, something house.
Oh, that one. That was last.
Right.
That didn't add much. They just wanted to talk about. How wonderful they were, and how the Australians don't want to do anything about their wonderful places and all that sort of thing. It was pretty. I didn't use much of it because of that. I found them, like this, like all the time.
Yeah.
So